Welcome to Trader UK, where we discuss money management and how to grow your wealth. Today, I'm going to show you how I just got a £1,000 tax refund for a job that I don't even have anymore, and it took me about 15 minutes with an online form. Now, this video applies to anyone who has been employed in the last 5 years and has been paying tax during that employment, and it will work even better if you've worn a uniform as a result of that employment. In fact, if you're a pilot or cabin crew, or you know pilots or cabin crew, make sure they see this video because they can often get thousands refunded. Now, before we start, guys, do me a huge favor, go ahead and like the video, leave a comment, and make sure you hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date with all the future content. Let's get straight into it. Now, there are plenty of companies out there who will do this on your behalf, but unfortunately, they're going to take a big chunk of the money that you're entitled to, so it becomes less and less worthwhile. So what I'm going to do is show you how the process works, how to complete the online form, and then it will usually take you around 15 minutes. Now, to get started, you'll need to head to the gov.uk website and search for tax relief for employees, or simply follow the link below in the description and start reading through the information that they provide on this screen. Make sure you read through this information, guys, but to summarize for you, if you are employed and paying tax, then you are entitled to offset some employment expenses against your income and get tax relief for it. I know that sounds a little bit complicated, but stay with me. Now, employment expenses can be a number of things, but it needs to be work related. The most common examples are tools and equipment for doing your job. My brother was a great example of this. He's a mechanic, so mechanics usually have to invest lots of their own money in tools to do their job, and I mean mechanics tend to spend thousands on their toolkits. Those tools are a deductible expense. They are necessary for you to do your job. Another common expense would be travel. This is how I got my refund. I was working for an accountancy firm previously. I was working around 5 miles from my house, so I would drive to work every morning. Unfortunately, driving to work each day is not deductible. It's the same for everyone. However, I would then go from the office out to clients almost every day. So I would then drive on to clients, let's say another 10 miles. I can't claim the first 5 miles to get to my office, but the following 10 miles, I can claim an allowance from HMRC, and they give a guideline that it should be 45 pence per mile for the first 10,000 miles. And that allowance is to cover fuel and wear and tear on your vehicle. Just to know that if your employer reimburses you for any of these expenses, then you cannot then claim them again. If, however, they were to reimburse you less than the 45 pence per mile, then you can go ahead and claim the difference. You can go ahead and read through this for information on which expenses are deductible. For today, the main expense I really want to concentrate on is uniform expenses. So this applies to anyone who has to wear a uniform as part of their role. Your employer will normally provide you with a uniform, but you are then responsible for cleaning and maintaining it. So rightfully so, you are allowed to deduct the cost of this. Now, what HMRC do for people who wear uniforms is they recognize that it's difficult to know how much it costs you to maintain that uniform. So luckily, they've done the hard work for us, and they've generated a list of professions who can claim a flat rate allowance rather than going back and keeping all your receipts. This means you don't need to prove anything, you don't need to keep receipts or provide any proof. Now, this table shows the allowances that HMRC have calculated, and they are to cover your uniform and your tools. Uniform and tools only. So if you decided to use this flat rate allowance, you would not be able to claim any more for your uniform or tools. You can, however, still claim for other expenses on top of this. Travel was the other expense that we gave, so you could claim for travel on top of this flat rate allowance. But if you're in a job like my brother, where you spend more than the flat rate allowance on tools, then you'll be better off keeping your receipts and claiming those rather than the allowance. It's your choice, whichever way you want to do it. So let's take a look at the list. Work your way through here and see if you can find your profession. You can see towards the top of the list there are the two highest allowances for pilots and cabin crew. The reason for theirs being so high is most likely because HMRC assume the uniforms need to be dry cleaned on a regular basis. The best way to think of this allowance is that for each year you can claim, you're going to get 20% of that amount back. So for cabin crew, the allowance is 720. So assuming that they are basic rate taxpayers, they'll get £144 for each year that they claim, and they can claim up to 5 years. So that's £720, no questions asked for cabin crew. If you are a pilot, there's actually a good chance that you'll pay higher rate tax at 40%. So if their allowance is £1,022, they can get £408 per year and potentially claim £2,044 across the 5 years. And if you can't find your profession on this list, you will find a little disclaimer from HMRC that if you wear a uniform and you're not on this list, then you can claim £60 per year under the flat rate allowance. To make your claim, you first need to complete this checklist. So let's work through it together. Who are you claiming the expenses for? Yourself. Are you claiming for expenses after the 5th of April 2016? Yes. With the online form, you can only date back 5 years. If you want to go further than that, I believe you would then need to do a paper form. Did you pay tax in each of the years you were claiming for? Hopefully yes will be the answer. You can't claim tax relief if you haven't paid any tax. It doesn't work like that. Do you complete self-assessment returns? No, should hopefully be the answer to this one. If you complete self-assessment returns, then you'll need to make the claim on your self-assessment. There is a section for it. Are you claiming expenses of £2,500 or more in a single tax year? Again, if you are, you need to do a paper form. So for this example, we'll say no. Has your employer paid back all your work-related expenses? If they've paid back part of them, it's fine, you can click no. But remember, if they've paid back in full these expenses, then you cannot make a claim for them. Select the expenses you want to claim. So if you're just claiming the flat rate uniform allowance, it will just be the top box. If you are claiming for mileage, the second box. Travel and overnight expenses, maybe your employer sends you off to different locations to stay overnight, but they don't pay for your food while you're away, this box. Many professions, accountants, lawyers, solicitors, these kind of people have to pay a subscription every year. If you use your home for working, you can claim part of the heat and light. And if you had to buy any equipment, tools for example, or maybe a laptop to use in the office, you can claim that as well. Are you claiming tax relief for more than 5 different jobs? No. If you are, again, you'll most likely have to use the paper form. And it confirms you are eligible to claim these job expenses online. You'll need your P60 and your national insurance number. Follow the link to claim using the online service. And you're going to need a government gateway ID. If you don't have a government gateway ID, then you can sign up for one from HMRC. I'm just going to quickly log in and then I'll show you how to complete the form. Once you log in, you'll be greeted by a screen that will ask you to confirm some details, your national insurance number, a few home address details, and then ask you if HMRC need to contact you, a convenient time and number to call you on, and then you'll find your way to this screen. You'll need to do each tax year individually, so we'll start from 2016-17. Remember, you need to have been paying tax in that tax year to make a claim. Fill in the details. Your employer name and PAYE reference will be available on your P60 or a payslip. Do you want to claim the flat rate deduction? Remember, if you have more expenses, for example, the mechanic that I mentioned, more expenses than the flat rate allowance, then you can go ahead and enter a manual amount. But if you want to use your flat rate amount, you can enter it here. And again, you have a search facility to find your profession. So in this example, I'll use the allowance of cabin crew. And it tells you here the allowance is 720. If you're claiming the flat rate allowance, you may as well claim the full amount. So you need to enter in this box. And then you can move on. If you have mileage, then you will select yes here. And you can select what type of vehicle you use. So for me, it was a car, and I claimed the 45 pence per mile. If you have a motorbike, you can claim it here. So a courier in London, for example, that uses their bike to drive around the city delivering packages could claim that mileage here. Select cycles, save and continue. And it will make the calculation for you. All you have to do is input how many miles you've done. And HMRC will do the calculation. If your employer have already paid you back some of that mileage, you can enter it here. In this case, we'll say no. And then you're giving another option. If you drive a company car, but you are responsible for paying for the fuel, you can claim that here. For this example, we'll say no. If you had travel and overnight expenses, hotels, meals when you're staying away, you can claim them here. And just work your way through filling out the necessary sections that apply to you. Professional fees and subscriptions, there's a section here. Medical fees or exam fees. Using your home as an office, you can make a calculation and input the details here. Did your employer give you a general expense allowance to cover these types of things? Hopefully no in this case, otherwise you won't be able to claim, or they will at least take that into account and then move on. Remember, the tax rate that you paid in this tax year, 16-17, is going to be the rate of refund that you get. So if I was paying 20% tax in that tax year, I would get a refund 20% of 920. Then all you need to do is confirm who's going to receive the refund and how you're going to receive it, and submit the form, and that's it, you're done. I hope you found that useful, guys. I hope some of you managed to go and get refunds. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and as always, subscribe to the channel.